Also, don't worry if you don't understand this. This is not important. You don't really need to know what is happening. So basically, we're not going to need this CSS file. So click on this and hold Control on Windows or Command on MacBook, and click on app.test.js. We don't need that too. Index.css, logo.svg, and setup.test.js, and then click Delete. And we're going to get an error, as you can see, because inside index.js we are importing index.css, our CSS file that we just deleted. So remove this import because it's not there, so we're going to be getting an error, obviously. Okay, so now let's get started. So let's go to app.js, and I'm going to make a state hook for storing our counter. So I'll explain all this in a sec. So go inside the function and do const, and then an array, and put in the name of the state, so counter for us, and set counter. I'll explain this in a second. Use state from React. So basically, what the point of a state is, basically, so whenever the state changes, the whole application renders again, the whole component renders again. And so we're going to be using the state the state's basically like a variable that stores stuff. So basically, the set counter is used to change the value of this variable, the counter variable, and the counter variable is going to be our counter. So we'll be changing the value of this counter using the set counter. And inside this, the use state, this would be the initial value of counter. So inside here, we're going to put 0 because obviously we're going to start off with 0. So counter is going to equal to 0 unless we change it to a set counter. Set counter is a function that changes counter. So don't worry, this will all make sense just in case you don't understand it. So, okay. So I'm going to be displaying counter. So to do this, we'll do this and then counter. And this will display counter on the web page. So if you go to your website, as you can see, there is a 0. This is from counter. And okay, so want to have a button that when you click on it, the count goes up by 1, gets incremented by 1. So to do this, we'll make a button, and we'll say, for example, plus, so add 1, and we'll have a onClick for this onClick function for this button. So when the user clicks on this button, we'll call a function. So this function is going to be called incrementCounter. So let's go ahead and make this function. So const, I'm going to be using an arrow function. So const incrementCounter is equal to arrow function. And okay, so this arrow function would increment the counter. So to do this, we need to do set counter, and we'll first let's make a new variable, call it count, for example. So let count is equal to counter plus 1. Increment is counter, we'll call this. So incremented counter. So this is going to be the new value of counter, and we'll pass this, don't worry about this error for now, and we'll pass this into set counter. So this incremented counter is going to be equal to the initial value, so whatever counter is right now, and we'll add 1 to it. And set counter, we'll pass in the variable to set counter, and set counter will change the value of the counter in state. And then whatever is displayed on the web page will change based on what the counter is now. So on click, we need to call this function. So on the click of this button, we'll call incrementCounter. And if I save this and click the button, as you can see, the count is changing. So 1, 2, 3. It's being incremented by 1 each time I click this button. So now let's do the same thing, but